Parties, we are going to be looking into mental health awareness and mental health awareness specifically among the younger generation. Yes, we're going to be looking into that. Why do we have cases of suicide? Why are they on the rise when it comes to the young people? What is it that could be triggering them to get to a point where they feel they are at a point of no return? We're going to be looking into this conversation. I will be joined by one Josam Silaba, who's a youth community leader, mental health advocate, and podcaster as well. We'll also have Agnes Mbala, who's a journalism student. We'll have George W. Wafula, who's a youth and teen mentor, as well as a trainer and teacher. And then we'll have Joe Ndoro, who's a journalism student as well. You definitely want to stay tuned for that conversation at 9 a.m. Marie?
A very good morning to you, Victor, Vivian, and of course to all of you joining us from across the country and beyond. My name is Mariambo, and I'll be bringing you up to speed with what is happening as far as the news is concerned. A lot happening on the political scene, definitely by-elections happening, some of them this week, and so more of that will be coming up in the bulletin this morning. But we want to begin on conservation note, where a slow-moving but potentially catastrophic environmental crisis is unfolding in the Great Rift Valley as lakes Baringo and Bogoria continue to rise to historic levels, bringing the water bodies close to merging. Experts warn that such a convergence could trigger irreversible ecological damage and disrupt livelihoods for thousands of residents. Let's get more with John Cairo.
Historic Lake Bogoria, a world-famous alkaline water body renowned for hosting an estimated 3 million flamingos. The waters have burst their banks and are now flowing toward Lake Baringo. Entire villages, public institutions and key infrastructure lie submerged beneath the expanding shoreline.
Baringo is always favored for 2 nights or 3 nights because there's so much to see. And if you can't find accommodation in Baringo, that means we cannot explore all these resources and all these adventures that we have and the activities that we offer.
The main entry gate to Lake Bogoria National Reserve is already half underwater, the third access point to be overtaken by the rising lake.
Our main gate is underwater. Some infrastructure development like the health center facility, the Loboy dispensary, is now underwater. Part of it, part of Lake Bogoria Girls Secondary School is now underwater.
At Laboy Center, the looming crisis has sent shockwaves among residents. Dan Kiprop is a carpenter in the area. We meet him tearing down homes as he helps families to salvage whatever remains before the advancing waters reach their doorsteps.
Watu wamehama hapa, tumetoa watu manyumba, tumeenda huko, lakini tumekosa sofa, tumekosa mahali pa kuishi. Shortage imekuwa ya manyumba, hakuna mahali watu wanaweza lala. Mpaka watu wanaishi kwa maduka ndani. Manyumba imeenda, mashamba simeenda. So ningeomba kama serikali ya county government na national government wataangalia hii watu. Sisi kama wakazi wa Bogoria, sisi tuko na shida kubwa sana.
Local leaders say the rising waters began accelerating in 2011, but the current scale of expansion is without precedent in modern times. Lake Bogoria Senior Warden James Kimaru confirmed the magnitude of the crisis.
Now, as we speak at around 2025, the rising level has really gone beyond the level that we've been experiencing.
According to satellite imagery, the lake, once covering 34 square kilometers, has expanded by an additional 11 square kilometers. On the Lake Baringo side, Warden Jackson Komen explains the consequences of the looming merger of Lake Bogoria with a pH of 10.6 and the fresh waters Lake Baringo.
So if the two lakes will meet, we'll have what is called an ecological disaster. For example, the fisheries will be affected completely. And we have approximately over 30,000 people depending on Lake Baringo. So we don't know what will happen in terms of food security. The hippos live in fresh water. They drink water. They also get their pasture from the lake. So if Lake Baringo will turn into a salt lake, then that means the hippos and the crocodiles and all other aquatic ecosystem will change completely.
And as the crisis unfolds, lives and livelihoods now hang on a thin string, with many fearing that once the two lakes finally meet, the consequences may be impossible to reverse.
Tunahofia maisha yetu, pia hata tunahofia pengine hii usiku tunasikia maneno hapa inasema dudududu hapa ndani. Hatuelewi kama hii lake inaweza kusink ama itakuwa namna gani, kwa sababu hatujawahi kusikia kitu kama hiyo.
Now, President William Ruto has dismissed fears of a possible diplomatic rift between Kenya and Uganda over access to Indian Ocean. Speaking in Tororo, Uganda, during the groundbreaking ceremony of the Devki mega steel project, the head of state assured the landlocked East African nation of unfettered access to the ocean and pledged closer collaboration in trade and infrastructure development.
Sunday in Tororo, Uganda. Leaders from Kenya and Uganda, led by President William Ruto and President Yoweri Museveni, gathered for the groundbreaking of the Devki mega steel project, poised to serve the entire East African region. It is here that President Ruto waded into the discussion on the Indian Ocean, following remarks by Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni on the country's challenges due to lack of direct access to the ocean. Ruto dismissed speculation his remarks had sparked a diplomatic tiff, assuring Uganda of uninterrupted access to the Indian Ocean.
Let me assure the naysayers that Uganda and Kenya are brothers and sisters, and we do not have time for negative engagement. Uganda is assured of the access to the sea through Kenya, and that is why we are not only extending the pipeline, we are also extending the road, and we are also extending the railway, because we believe that this region needs to move as one.
With Uganda being the largest market for Kenyan goods, Ruto and Museveni pledged to expand infrastructure and logistics.
That we extend the railway. And Mr. President, next week on Friday, I will be launching the dualling of the road from Rironi near Nairobi that will come all the way to Malaba. As you know, Mr. President, today that road is getting slower as traffic increases. And therefore, we have made the strategic decision to create a highway and dual that road so that we can facilitate faster movement of goods, people, and services.
These roads, the transport system is now irrational. We need to rationalize it. Why is it irrational? Barabara, the road, they are small cars. They are railways carrying cargo. They are petrol tankers carrying petrol, all on the road.
Ruto further revealed that plans for Kenya and Uganda to jointly co-own the Kenya pipeline are on course.
Let me also commend you, Mr. President, for agreeing to work with us. The ministers were in Nairobi last week, and I have given them appropriate guidance on the need for Uganda and Kenya, public and private, to jointly own the Kenya Pipeline Company, the company that supplies or provides the pipeline for supply of fuel into our region.
Well, I'm very happy with what His Excellency is doing on the pipeline. I thank him and congratulate him. We are going to co-invest in that one together, all the way up to the Congo border.
The two leaders emphasized the need for closer collaboration and unity across the East African region and the African continent.
I equally commend my brother and friend, His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, whose enduring advocacy for regional integration within the East African community has provided the enabling environment for projects like this one to thrive.
What we are doing here is not just launching a project. It is part of the liberation process of Africa. It is part of ending the betrayal, usaliti.
The Devki Mega Steel project, valued at approximately $500 million, is expected to produce 1 million tons of steel annually by 2027.
In this factory, we will have over 5,000 Tororo people will be working, and I promise 90% job will be provided to the local community.
Now, we move on where political campaigns intensified on Sunday with only 3 days left to by-elections. Political leaders camped in various constituencies and wards to drum up support for their candidates, while some were in churches to woo worshippers to vote for their candidates. More with Gladys Mungai.
The race for Mbeere North parliamentary seat continues to heat up, with DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua drumming up support for Democratic Party candidate Newton Kariuki. Speaking at a church service in ACK St. Stephen's Karangare Church in Ishiara, Gachagua assured voters that their voices will count during the ballot, urging them to turn up and vote. Gachagua urged other political players to embrace honest and respectful methods of campaign, even as he cautioned voters against being swayed by handouts.
Hakuna mtu anaweza iba kura yetu. Sisi ni watoto ya maumau. Utatuibia kura tukiwa wapi? The dignity and the pride of the mountain people is in the hands of the people of Mbeere. I beseech you, my people, please dignify our community. Restore our pride and dignity as a community. And all you need to do to restore our dignity and pride as a people, as a community, is to eat his money, reject his project, and elect Newton Karis. Utafanya hivyo?
Gachagua would later embark on a Meet the People tour in Ishiara, Kanyombora, and Siakago in Mbeere North. Separately, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka was in PCA Committee Forest in Kiambu Church. Here he challenged the church not to be swayed by the political leaders and speak up against social injustices perpetrated by politicians.
The church leadership know that you do not have to follow political leaders. Political leaders should follow the church because you are the salt of the earth. Nando's church, which stands strong. Kumbukeni, if the church is strong and uncompromised, every other type of leadership will take notice. But where the church is not sure, then watu wanaingilia huko.
And a section of ODM politicians have dismissed claims of infighting, saying divergent views among party members were signs of a healthy democracy.
Baba kabla jaga alisema maoni inakubaliwa kwa chama. Kwa hivyo maoni yote ambayo inaendelea sasa haijasema chama itabomoka, kwa sababu tuna viongozi tayari tuliwachagua kule Mombasa.
We will sit down and discuss them because Baba believed in sitting down and dialoguing.
To matters road safety now, where a joint road safety campaign has been launched ahead of the festive season, with road users urged to observe traffic regulations. The campaign by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the National Police Service comes amid concerns of the rising number of traffic-related fatalities. According to NTSA, more than 4,200 people have died this year as a result of road accidents. Teresa Mutai has details of the road safety campaign launch.
As the December holiday season beckons, NTSA, police and stakeholders teamed up for a road safety awareness walk. The The stakeholders urged Kenyans to take extra precaution as millions prepare to travel during the festive season. NTSA Road Safety Programs lead Samuel Musumba urged Kenyans to make road safety a personal responsibility.
Idadi ya watu ambao tumepoteza kuanzia Januari mpaka sasa ni watu zaidi ya 4,200. Hao ni watu wengi sana. Hatungependa tena kupoteza mtu mwingine tena pale barabarani. What we are dealing with is a serious issue of behavior change. And behavior change is not an event that you can change people today. It's not. It's a continuous process, so we hope that we can build this culture.
He called on the public to carefully plan their travels, avoid drunk driving and decline boarding crowded vehicles.
Tunaangalia pia mambo ya speed, sababu ndio watu wanakufa kwa ajili ya speed sana. Wale ambao wanaendesha magari wakiwa wamelewa pia tutakabiliana na wao, kwa sababu hizo ndizo hatari wakati kama huu. Ningependa pia kutahadharisha abiria ambao watatumia magari haya ya matatu. Jameni, usipande gari ambalo limeshajaza watu. Ukipatikana ukiwa excess, basi sheria itakuandama.
National Police Service Senior Superintendent Boniface Otieno, in charge of road safety, said police have intensified patrols and traffic checks across major highways. He said roadblocks and multi-agency compliance checks will continue throughout the holiday period.
All our traffic checks along major highways and all over the Republic, we will be having officers to check on wananchi. We still have roadblocks at specific areas. These roadblocks again checks the general security of travelers and even traffic cases. Therefore, we also urge wananchi, where there is a problem in the vehicles, public service vehicles they travel with, they are free to report even at those roadblocks and the traffic checks.
The campaign also includes musicians and event planners who are expected to use creative arts to push road safety messages. Aul Onyango, artistic director of Notwise Music Hub, said music can reach audiences in ways traditional messaging cannot.
Being a musician, I have come to realize that it is easy to reach a bigger population of Kenyans through music. Because when we listen to the songs over and over again, there is that beat of trying to understand the message.
Let's try as much as possible to be aware of road safety. And this is the first that we are doing music for the sake of road safety.
NTSA is working with private sector groups, NGOs and county governments to amplify the road safety message, and a concert on the same is planned for 30th of November. Kenyans have been urged to observe road safety rules and regulations, especially during this festive season, in order to minimize road accidents.
Teresa Mutai reporting there. Pastoral communities at the Titila village in Tana River County are trying to save their remaining livestock from drought. Families here are forced to trek miles in search of water and pasture, sometimes digging deeper into their pockets for animal feeds. And as our reporter Yusuf Farah now tells us, in the following report, from pasture to peril, the affected families are slowly losing hope, even as they appeal for the state and non-state agencies to intervene.
Muhammad Hassan Kolme is a devastated man. Outside of his homestead lie several carcasses of his livestock that met what he calls an untimely demise. From goats to sheep and even cows, the herdsman has had a front row seat to the death of his source of livelihood that has reduced significantly since the rains here failed and the dry spell settled in.
Mbuzi nilikuwa na 200, sasa niko na 100. Na bado inaendelea kukufa. Hata sasa haikuwa mzuri.
The animal feeds aren't cheap either.
Akishindwa kutembea, akikosa chakula, kukufa. Ama lazima utafute nini wisha ya kukuliwa. 2,500. Tunapaka kutoka mingi ama tunaagiza kutoka Mombasa mpaka Babura. Hapa ikifika unaambia ni 3,000. Kama uko na ngombe 10 hivi, hawezi kukula hata kwa wiki. Siku 2 tu. Ni lazima unaagiza tena nyingine.
The remaining livestock has had to be transferred to a village far away from here to avoid meeting the same fate. This loss has made this man born into pastoralism and lived as one his entire life contemplate focusing on other income sources.
Kidogo nikikosa lazima nitafanya tu, ama nitavunja kuni, ama nitabeba hii magunia, ama nitalima. Lazima nitaanza tu kazi nyingine. Sitalala kama njaa iko karibu, nitafanya namna gani?
This village is filled with carcasses of animals that have succumbed to starvation and other drought-related conditions. The failed rains here only taking things from bad to us. At Hassan Maulid's homestead, there is fear that this visibly weak cow that has survived the harsh drought might also be staring at the abyss. The owner has however not given up on it and is hopeful of the cow making a complete 360-degree recovery.
Hiyo ngombe ilikuwa imekaa karibu miezi miwili hivyo tukimbeba hivyo, na kila tunampatia wisha ile chakula ya ngombe. Tukimpatia inakula kwa wiki moja inaisha. Na hiyo ikiisha hakuna nyasi, afya inadhoofika, inaenda chini.
He too has had his fair share of livestock losses.
Hii kiangazi nilikuwa na ngombe 100 na kwa saa hii imefikia, hii kiangazi imepeleka ngombe imekufa karibu 40, na ile yenye imebaki pia mpaka saa hii afya bado iko imedhoofika.
Maulid and Muhammad, like many other pastoralists in this village, are grappling with harsh climate conditions that are threatening their only means of livelihood. Case in point is this fresh case of a cow meeting its demise barely a few days ago. Should there be no immediate intervention coming through, they fear that this may be an all too familiar sighting in the near future.
Hata nilikuwa nimefikiria plan B, nijaribu kuuza hii ngombe mimi, hata nijaribu kwenda recruit. Ikikuwa mimi nijisukume upande huo, at least nikuwe na payslip venye hii ngombe imekuwa hivi, na mimi nilikuwa ni mfanya biashara.
Adding salt to injury is the drying up of water sources, making them have to trek miles in search of the now rare commodity, leading to the scramble of the same, which often ends up in ugly sins.
Sasa wewe ukitangulia kisima fulani anakuambia wewe umemaliza maji kwa kisima yangu, mfugo wangu bado haijapata maji. Sababu hiyo hata ile babangu alipasuliwa kichwa na nilitumia gharama tena, nikaingia gharama nyingine huko. Huku mfugo inadhofika, unatafuta chakula ya mfugo ya ngombe na mzee pia, ilhali watu wameumizana sababu ya kiangazi.
The Kenya Red Cross Society had issued a drought warning for the country and activated its early action protocol after the weatherman's report of below average October, November, December rains. The once thriving community is now in urgent need of rescue from the jaws of drought.
Huko kupitia World Vision, Red Cross, iko mapato kidogo, hiyo tumepata faida kubwa sana. Hata tumesonga mbele baadaye ikaisha. Hata sasa tunataka hiyo usaidizi.
Seasonal rivers like this one might be the only hope for the pastoralist communities here, but they are afraid that these too may run dry. They're now calling on humanitarian agencies to come to their aid before it's too late. Yusuf Far reporting for KBC Channel 1 in the county of Tana River.
Yusuf Farah, thank you for that detailed report. And we look at sports now, where the Football Kenya Federation Premier League match pitting Shabana FC and Moranga Seal was not aired by KBC TV as earlier planned due to capacity challenges. The production company contracted to produce the match was unable to do so, contrary to reports that Moranga Seal and Shabana FC obstructed the broadcast of the fixture that was played yesterday at the Sports Pesa Arena in Moranga. And that's where we put a cap on the news this morning. Thank you so much, as always, for your company and for always watching Good Morning Kenya. My name is Maria Ambo, and I hope you'll stay tuned for the rest of Good Morning Kenya as Victor takes over, and also we'll be having more news updates later on in the day. Good morning.
Ama umeona hii nini? Shamasunde ile kazi mzuri anafanya. Kazi gani? Anajiita balozi wa matumaini.
Anchekiaje wewe? Hali yako hali yangu manzi.
Ulikuwa unaitwa nani?
Si ati nilikuwa naitwa.
Unabivaje kama mama Manguetes na wewe ni jogo?
Brate, usinite brate. Ni nini sasa msimu unatandika msichana mtoko yani?
Unakimbia nini? Kuja hapa.
Nilikuwa nafukuza umbwa. Unachua chori aishi? Ndo. Ameishi na mke wake lakini katika hali ya wizi. Ameoa mwizi.
Nini mbaya?
Unaenda Kawosa. Unapata mtu wa Kawosa yuko.
Ongea lugha ya Kiswahili.
Niko pesa chakula.
Let me explain.
I don't need to hear your explanations. You and my sister are both disgusting.
Hey, Lucia, please don't go. Listen to me.
With your filthy hands.
Lucia, wait. Can't you understand that she doesn't want to talk to you? I don't have any reason to claim a child that isn't even mine.
Why didn't you tell me that you are friends with Ricardo Marquez?
What? But he wasn't my friend.
Why did you do this to me, Nor?
I did that because I couldn't stand the idea of you being happy. Because I wanted to see you suffer.
How could you do that to your own sister?
Alonso, you hurt her.
Get out of here.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. Just joining us is the 24th day of November 2025. Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya, and it's Monday. Eye on Politics begins right now. Okay, in studio I have the boss who is taking care of the office of the Registrar of Political Parties in Kenya. I want us to have a conversation beyond the political parties and what it really means as per the Constitution of Kenya and the Constitution of the political parties. We have got 91 registered political parties in the country, and I want us to take a look at really what lies in that office and what he's up to. He's the new sheriff in town, and how he intends to walk that journey in Kenya. John Cox Lorionco is the man at the helm of that office. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I remember where you come from. They say, how do you say good morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
I was waiting for that. Asante sana. So let's talk about political parties and basically beyond the political parties, what you really need to understand and what you need to tell Kenyans. But before then, how about I take you through the front page of our local dailies as per the tradition. On the front page of the Star newspaper, close to 30 billion shillings lost in state plan to uplift youth and women. Close to 30 billion shillings. That's what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Close to 30 billion shillings lost in state plan to uplift youth and women. That is the audit has unearthed graft in Hustler Wezo Fund, among other funds. That is what I have here on the front page of the Star newspaper. That story continues on the inner pages. Ruto, Kenya and Uganda are sisters. They'll never fight. The president was in Uganda over the weekend, and he assured the two countries that there is no rift between them. In politics, IEBC dismisses claims of rigging, says that it's ready for by-elections. That is the IEBC boss saying there. And of course, talk about IEBC, we have got photos of different candidates campaigning across the country. And that is Kabondo Kasipul, we have got Magarini constituency, we have got Mbeere North, attracting, and of course Malava constituency, attracting a lot of political machinery being deployed there to drum up support for their candidates. On the front page of the Daily Nation, how by-elections will change Ruto rivals 2027 plans. That is what I have here. More or less the same thing that is on the front page of the Star newspaper. Thursday's mini polls promise to act as a barometer for President William Ruto in choosing new strategic partners, including entering into pre-election power-sharing deals. For Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Chief Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, a poor showing for the President's party in Mbeere North and Malava, respectively, will have their political consequences. Take a look at that story. Okay. And of course, there is some case of tears and pain now that Makongeni estate went down. Bulldozers actually were there over the weekend to pave way for the affordable housing by the government. Okay. And finally, on the front page of the Standard, license to extort. There are 5 characters on the front page of the Standard here. License to extort. The story is all about a shadowy criminal network who has spent the past year sweeping across Kenya, posing as state officers and extorting millions from terrified business owners, all under the protection of uniformed police officers. Now the Standard can uncover the full scale of brazen scheme, legitimized by dubious gazette notices and quietly enabled by police commanders, leaving victims asking who is protecting them. That is the big question on the front page of the Standard. So go ahead and pick your favorite paper and read for more details. Okay, now let's come back to the discussion here. Allow me to ask this question. When you first got your first call to lead the office of the Registrar of Political Parties, first of all, how does it feel to be in that office?
Oh, well, how does it feel?
Yes.
Of course, it's an office that I have had for some time. I've been also in the political field for a while. I come from managing elections.
Yes.
And so how it feels is, of course, I know it's an office that has a lot of activity. It has a lot of different characters and all that.
Yes.
So just an office that I knew there's work to do, so and I'm prepared for that.
Yes. What are some of the work that you really need to do? Because Kenya we are enjoying the multi-party politics ever since the repeal of Section 2A, and we've been there. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 is quite elaborate. How are you prepared to handle us as Kenyans?
I think that's important point, that we are enjoying the repeal of Section 2A. Not just that, but that our 2010 Constitution made it very clear. I mean, Article 4, Sub-Article 2, say that Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state.
Yes.
That is a constitutional provision for Kenya. But underpinning that says it shall be a democratic state founded under national values and principles of good governance. And that is why the office is there to, first of all, bring that to reality. How do we become a multi-party democratic state? By allowing people to exercise their rights under Article 38 of forming and participating in the formation of political parties. And that is a right that each and every Kenyan has as per the Constitution that we have. So this office facilitates that process by enabling Kenyans of same minds to come together and create for themselves an avenue to be heard in the democratic space in this country.
Okay. Yes. I mean, you talk about democratic space. I mean, Kenyans value multi-party democracy.
Yes.
And that is what we drink, sleep, walk, talk. Everything is politics. But do you think that to that extent, very few people are actually close to the political parties?
I think it's an issue of understanding and creating awareness. I think we sometimes think of democracy, the way we want it.
Yeah.
And if we look at our constitution, I think it gives us parameters for how this democracy will function. And I've just told you that it says that this multi-party democracy must be founded on certain values, must be governed by principles of good governance. And so part of what we need to understand is how do we participate in creating this democracy. And part of that participation is being part and parcel of formation and members of these political parties. I do believe that we cannot have a democratic country without having democratic political parties.
Yes, yes.
And that is the foundation of how our democracy can be built up. So these parties have to be first given an opportunity to exist, and then build them up to be able to exercise that democracy within themselves, in the way they are formed, in the way they are run, in the way they function, in order for us to be able to realize, the democratic space we are talking about. Yeah, so the office actually is there to try and strengthen the parties to be able to realize that democracy within the parties themselves. Of course, we have a very strong background of regions and tribalism, because that is how we are formed as a country. Yeah. And those are not necessarily bad things, because they give us a background on how to build up. But when we need to build ourselves to a more inclusive society where all of us belong and all of us agree on certain values that we can say this is what we believe in, and we can move forward together.
How is Wanjiku related to the Office of the Registered Political Parties? Wanjiku is you and I, the common Kenyan.
Now, in my view, the existence of the political parties is not just for existence sake. It is for the purpose of Wanjiku to participate in making choices for himself or herself. And that is why we feel as an office that our regulation of the political parties is in preparation for them to be able to serve Wanjiku better. Sometimes people think that registering a party, you just wake up and register a party.
There's a whole procedure about that.
It's a whole procedure.
Yes.
It's not just a simple procedure. I can tell you, I said there are 91 political parties and counting. We have 27. I just gave 2 certificates last week. We have 27 professionally registered political parties that if they can work through now and October next year, we could have 100 plus. But some of those parties have
27
professionally registered political parties.
On top of the 91?
Yes, 91 are the fully registered. Those ones are the ones that are participating in elections now.
Yes.
The 27 have fulfilled the preliminary stages of registering a political party, but they are not yet fully registered.
Yeah.
So that means they are basically, submitted their constitutions, they have submitted their ideologies, they have submitted their basic requirements, but then they have up 270 days for them to be able to fill all the other requirements that they need to be able to be fully registered, and that's by October next year.
Yeah.
If they all qualify, then we will have 112 maybe. When a party registers, some of those requirements that they have is that they need to be seen to have the face of Kenya. You know what the face of Kenya means?
Yeah.
They need to have presence in the 47 counties that we have, because this is not a section of Kenya, it's the whole of Kenya. They need to have inclusivity in the way they form their structures. So all these 91 have gone through all that process. They have structured themselves the way the Constitution defines how we should be represented according to Article 91 and 92 of the Constitution. That requires that we should have, a country that everybody is included.
Yeah.
We are all considered to be of the same interests and are able to meet our interests through these political parties. So the requirements for a party is so intense, and they take a lot of time to prepare for that. So to have you register a party, you have to be ready to actually accommodate everybody else, because this is not just for you, it's for the interest of Kenyans. It's for the interest of Wanjiku,
Yeah.
the one you're talking about, and Otieno and whoever else. So this is not just for the person registering, it's for everybody else who is in this country, yes.
I'm just trying to imagine, when you have got 91 political parties fully registered and you have got 27 more to come, there is that aspect of party funding. How do you handle this? Because then it means that each and every political party has that inherent right to benefit from the political party's fund.
That's not correct. There are provisions for political party funding, which is part of what this office is instituted to do, and that has been given some structure. Parties that benefit right now from the political party funding, I think there are 48.
What is the threshold?
One, they have to be able to participate in elections and have elected members. And not just that, they have to actually show that in that participation, they have members of the special interest groups who have been, gotten into the elective positions and elected. And then we also have some of the conditions is how many votes across board of all the elective positions that party has garnered in elections. So it is not just that having a party you get political funding. You have to show that you have actively participated in elections and created representation. Of course, as an office, we feel that probably we need to think about how do we strengthen this party so that they're able to basically function at a minimal stage for them to be able to stage themselves to the next stage of then being able to field candidates and all that. It's such a discussion that we are taking right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have any effect? Perhaps somebody would ask, any dominance by the executive over the office of the registered political parties?
The office of the registered political parties is of course a state office, but it is an independent office. Because its role is very much defined in the Political Parties Act. We are not controlled by any state executive body or anybody, because our role is to register, to regulate, and supervise the activities and functions of political parties. That is for all political parties, whether they are in government or not in government. So the office is not controlled or rather geared to work according to the intentions of the executive in whichever way. Yes.
Let's come back to what is current right now. I think it's also highlighted on the front page of local dailies. Of course, we have got by-elections coming up.
Yes.
Are you concerned about what's happening across the country, the violence that we are experiencing? Some red flags that you can see from there?
Of course, as a Kenyan, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned because we shouldn't have to shed any blood during elections. And I think this is a critical time. For the time I have been here, almost close to a month, I've always said that I do believe that a big part of our focus in terms of trying to handle this 2027 general election is a focus of the political parties. You realize they are very critical players when it comes to whether you're talking about the election or the by-elections. And for me, I think we need to engage the political parties to be able to own this process in a way that they have a bit of responsibility in how this is handled. Of course, I know we have come from a very, tension kind of background of politics, but the political parties have a lot of role to play. Part of what we are doing as an office is strengthening internal dispute organs within the political parties so that we can contain these problems within the parties before they escalate outside. Because part of these issues actually spring from the parties themselves. By the time it gets to election, it's already out of hand. And what we're trying to do is strengthening the political party organs for them to be able to resolve their disputes within the parties, so that by the time we are getting to elections, we have more or less a very peaceful environment. So I am concerned because I think we need to engage these parties as early as today, because in Kenya, we do politics from day one when we finish elections and then we start it again.
Right.
And so we need to manage that so that we have an environment that appreciates. Of course, politics is important for us, but we need to manage it for peace. We need to manage it for continuity of our democracy. Yes.
Okay. Talk of politics. I mean, we have got electoral challenges that we face as a country, and one of them is the violence. Some 2 candidates were actually fined by the IEBC last week because of the violence that we experienced. But let's talk about the impunity that is shrouding our electoral space in the country. And of course, the perception out there that, you know, anytime we go for an election, it's not going to be free, it's not going to be fair. I know you work hand in hand with the IEBC, but how are you intending to change this perception? Because Wanjiku must be given that assurance that all is okay.
Well, I think that's an issue for IEBC, and I'm sure they are prepared about making sure that the election is free and fair. Our responsibility as an office is preparing the parties for election.
Yes.
And of course, we partner with IEBC in a lot of ways. We actually start a little bit earlier than IEBC, because we start with the parties when they are doing their party primaries. We try and moderate that to just make sure that they are doing that according to their own. Every party has a constitution that they have written for themselves and say, this is how we are going to function as a party. They have nomination rules. This is how we are going to nominate our leaders for the purposes of election. They have organs that deal with issues which they arise from the party. So our responsibility as an office is trying to hold the parties accountable to what they have prescribed for themselves in terms of the constitution, in terms of the nomination rules, in terms of what the governing bodies are supposed to do. Now, that is part of what we try to do to prepare these parties for election. After we have done that, then these parties are now clients, of course, of IEBC in terms of the elections or the by-elections, but we still monitor to see whether they are actually following the constitution that they made for themselves and the rules that they made for themselves, so that we can hold them compliant. But in terms of the election itself, that is a responsibility that entirely can be handled by IEBC, because they have the provisions to do that in terms of the legal framework.
Great. How are you handling economic pressures?
Well, economic pressures are all over the place. Of course, it's a challenge for all Kenyans and all offices. And I think what we do is to try and leverage on whatever opportunities we have. You know, there is no single party that can be able to achieve without support of others. And even as an office, we also rely on support of other offices, support of other structures to help us achieve the mandate that we have. You know, we have a responsibility to Kenyans in terms of what we have been given constitutionally as our mandate. And so the economic pressures exist, but that does not mean that we just wait and sit because we can't manage. We have to keep doing what we need to do, leveraging on the opportunities we have from different parties that we have.
Amazing. But then, when you look at your role as the office, you are doing your bit. But do you have a feeling, or do you think that the political party leaders are also playing the same role to enhance democracy in the country?
I think, for sitting where I sit, I think the parties are really trying. Before looking on and understanding how a party comes to be, it might seem like the parties are being overboard. But there is a lot that the parties are trying to do. And part of what we are trying to do is closing that space of personal interests from the parties, so that we build parties to be based on ideologies and be based on issues. So that then it addresses the citizens.
But
and not the
is it the real case? They say kwa ground vitu ni different.
Ndio tunataka kubadilisha kwa ground vitu ni different.
I get it.
Tunataka kwa ground vitu ikuwe sawa na vile iko kwa political parties pia. And so part of what we are doing, as I told you, is trying to strengthen the internal party structures. I will tell you 2 examples. For example, part of the requirements of the party is inclusion. We need the parties to show us that they have youth, they have women, they have people with PWDs. And those people need to be able to voice themselves. Let's, for example, talk of the current. We've had this the Gen Z thing that we have on the table in this country. Part of the challenge is, where do they find themselves in the parties? They feel like they have a place. And so what we are trying to do is we are trying to build up the parties to be accommodative to these groups, to the youth, to the women, and to the people with PWD, so that they have a voice, that they do not have to get outside the parties to feel like they can be heard somewhere else, but they can be heard within the party. And that's the most democratic way to do it, as opposed to doing it, maybe like on the streets and other places. And so we want that to come from inside. And when we have the information from inside, it holds people more accountable. The other thing we are trying to do as an office is information to the public. I'm sure some of us may not even know how these political parties function.
Yes.
We don't even know what are the rules of these political parties. And lack of information means you can't hold anybody accountable if you have no information. So as an office, we are trying to expand that space of access by the public to information about political parties. We're actually thinking about how do we get the public to know, how do you register a party, what do you require, how does a party run, how does a party do elections of its own officials, so that these parties are not just run by a few, but the public that owns these parties, because I believe that all parties are actually owned by the people of Kenya. Every party is supposed to have like 1,000 members from at least half of the county, which is 24,000. From every county 1,000. So these are the real owners of the party, and we need them to understand how this party functions. If we can have that information out there, then there will be a bigger base of accountability in terms of how the party functions, and that builds towards democracy. Because then we have more people holding the leaders accountable for what they do, holding the country accountable for what it does, because they understand how it should function.
We are enjoying democracy, and that's why you and I can have this conversation freely and talk about democracy and everything in between. But do Kenyans really understand what political parties stand for? That is question one. Question number two, related to that, where does Kenya stand when it comes to democratic space in Africa, continentally? Where do we stand?
Well, do Kenyans understand what political parties stand for? I think it's a very long story. If you go back to how we have grown as a country, I mean, we have a lot of baggage in terms of what political parties mean. We came from one party state where one person defines everything for everybody, and so building on that, we need to break that ice that political parties belong to individuals, and they don't, because there's a whole process that involves everybody else. So I think, yes, there may be some level of ignorance on how political parties should be and how they should function. That's what I told you. We need to build that space so that we can actually give Kenyans a more information on what does it mean to have a party and how does it function. Where does Kenya stand in terms of democracy in Africa? I can start from where we are as an office. I mean, we are not very old. I think 2011 is when the act came into force for political parties. But so far, we've had a lot of interest from other countries to come and see how we are managing political parties in Kenya.
So we are that good?
We are not there, but I think we've made a lot of progress. I usually say my first experience with elections was the last Mlolongo system. My first experience in elections. And I don't know if you know what Mlolongo system is.
I know, yes.
And if I look back to that time and I look at where we are, we've made a lot of progress. We may not be perfect, we may not have gotten everything right, but I think if we keep on reminding ourselves that where do we need to get, we first of all have to understand where we are, so that we're able then to focus on how do we get where we want to go from where we are. And I think in terms of democracy, I think we have a knowledge, we have some understanding of what do we need to put in place. It's just a matter of taking action and saying, okay, let's do it, and we get ourselves where we need to be. But in terms of democracy, I think we can't compare ourselves with some of our neighbors, which are not mentioned in the country. But we have come a long way.
We have come a long way. But then, come to think of it, you have a very hard nut to crack as the office. But the question is, you have got some resource and capacity challenges that you're facing, do you?
Yes, I would say, of course, definitely as an office, we have a lot of resource challenges. Even we are not even fully established as we speak. We have challenges in terms of the personnel. Of course, resources is also a challenge. And that's why we keep pushing the government to even honor the promises of the political parties fund is a constitutionally provided for fund, but we have never received the full funding. You know, we always get, you know, some percentage of it. It is 0.03%, but we always get maybe 0.1 something percent. So which doesn't give us, you know, the muscle we need to help in terms of improving the parts. As an establishment, we are about 39-40% in terms of establishment. So that means we are very limited in how we can be able to impact. As an office, our establishment now in terms of the you know, outside Nairobi, we have 13 branches, and that is far much lower than the 47, which is our goal. Because we feel that for us to be able to reach, we have to be present in the 47 counties, so that we have an office that people can reach, people can ask, people can, you know, find. Of course, we have a website, we have all that, but you know, not everybody can be able to access through that channel. So there are those limitations in terms of how far we can be able to get out there.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I still want us to have much more because we are enjoying this space courtesy of the 2010 Constitution. And I just want to ask you, what are you going to do? Do you have some of the policies that you are putting in place to strengthen your office and the democratic space that we are enjoying? Stay with us. Much more after this.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Back. If you're just joining us, you have missed a lot about the political parties. Actually, we are learning so much here. So I'm with John Cox, who is the Lieutenant Co, who is the Registrar of Political Parties, telling us what we really need to understand. Now, let me come back to the political parties funding before I forget about it. So what is the threshold? So you are a political party, you are registered, but I know there are plenty of steps that one should go through to access the funding. Perhaps just one or two you can highlight for us.
Yeah, I think I did say that the fund has a structure in terms of provision. Of course, when it comes as whatever percentage is provided, I've told you that it's provided by 0.03%, but we have never gotten the full funding. So maybe whatever percentage comes is usually divided based on the parties, first of all, depending on the number of votes they get in an election, and then the members that they get elected in whatever category, and then we have the representation of the special interest groups that that party is able to get, And then, of course, about 5% of it goes to the administration, because we are the office that administers this fund to the political parties. Now, because of that not being funded fully, it becomes a challenge in terms of course, distribution. That means that parties don't get that much.
Yeah.
And so what it does is it may not give them the strength that they require in terms of being able to facilitate their own processes, because this fund is supposed to give them an ability to develop their internal capacities to participate in elections. And that is why all the issues of inclusivity are part of the process. But then we have the whole other part where if a party does not reach the threshold, for example, in terms of it doesn't maybe have any elected members,
yes,
it doesn't have, then they do not get that ability to benefit from the fund, because that is the first requirement. You have to have an elected member from any of the the 6 elections we have: the president, the senator, the governor, the member national assembly, and the MCA. So if you don't get any of those, then automatically you are dropped out of the system before the other requirements come on board.
Okay.
Yes.
You need to be carrying out civic education. I know there's another body which is also mandated to do that. But how are you handling this so that the party structures, the party organs, the party leaders and Wanjiku are in tandem?
Now, I did mention to you that that is part of the focus we are looking at.
Yes.
Because civic education is about providing the public with the information that they need to know about these political parties, including the members of the political parties themselves. And so, as an office, we are trying to utilize the avenues we have, and part of those avenues is like the one you're giving me today.
Yeah.
Just giving out information to the public on terms of how do these parties function. But the other one is engaging with our partners in giving us an opportunity to isolate some of these groups and give them information, like for example engaging the youth, engaging the women at the grassroots levels, giving the information about the political parties and about this office. But of course, as I've told you that our establishment is only 13 branches. That means we may not be able to reach all of the public as required because of that strain. But our goal is eventually to be able to get to everybody within the 47 counties that we have in terms of that information, giving them the information they need to know about the political parties and how that is related to their own lives, even as citizens, and how does that shape what becomes, our democracy and what becomes, our economic structure and all that. Yes.
We are advancing, and the era right now is AI and digital era. How are you trying to, weed out fraudulent registrations or the political parties? Because now someone can just wake up in the middle of nowhere and pick a few people, open an office somewhere and says, I'm a fully registered political party. How are you handling this?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good thing. I think we have that background, which I think has haunted us for a very long time.
Right.
People think that, you just wake up, you collect people and you register. I think the office has moved a long way. Prior to probably around 2017 up to around 2021 there, we had those problems. But we have built a very robust system right now for political parties. That system allows the political parties to register members. It's called an Integrated Political Parties Management System, IPPMS. Now that allows political party to register members.
Yes.
It allows people to register themselves, either using eCitizen or the *509 hash. You can register yourself. What has become a game changer for us is that now you cannot register anybody without their consent. If you get somebody's ID and put them in your system, it will send a message to that individual telling them that such and such a person wants to register you this party, and you can consent or refuse. And the same to the political party. If I wanted to register, for example, to a political party, that political party will have to consent to my registration, to their membership. So that has created an end-to-end kind of management, so that we do not have people being registered without their consent to a political party. Yes. Because that used to be a problem. I agree, you know, and that has never moved from people's minds. But we have changed from that. We no longer have people being registered without their consent. Of course, you know, there is a whole, you know, Data Protection Act that has come on board. Now, people's details has become a big issue. You can't just pick somebody's data and put them on a system without them telling you that you can do it. So that's part of the engagements we are moving towards to try and improve that. This system, IPPMS, has also created an avenue for the political parties to be able to see their own membership registers. You know, they can be able to see how many members they have. They can be able to access this on their end. We also give them updates after every 2 weeks of, you know, this many number of people have left your party. You know, they have resigned from your party, so that you are aware that you have members that have left, and you need to think about how to probably continue to recruit more members. Yes. Okay. So those are progressive things that we are doing to try and you know, mitigate against you know, being put in parties without your knowledge. Your party is creating you know, this knowledge that you can just make a party in your room and have members, you know, without them being part of that process.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I want us to take a very short break. Not a break per se, just a transition. And join my colleague, Regina Manyara, who is in Mombasa. Regina is attending the Institute of Engineers of Kenya conference in Mombasa. Regina, perhaps just as you are handling that, everything is politics, including the conference you're attending in Mombasa. Just give us a sight and sounds of what's happening in the coastal town there. Regina?
Victor, rightfully put, we're coming to you live from County 001 that is hosting the 32nd IEK convention, around charting the way forward, or rather the futuristic outlook of the engineering space, the roadmap in Kenya for future matters engineering. The question is, what does it take, especially when it comes to building capacity? Even this particular convention is definitely going to be political with a tidbit or an inclination to engineering. Remember, the president of IEK has been very of the government review and also foster implementation to have local engineers take place in mega infrastructure, you know, envisioned under the current. For further details, we are going to be having a candid conversation at exactly 8 Rabuko Hall there in where we are. This is the Rabuko Hall is going to be holding at least day 1 and day 2 of this particular convention. And today we're going to be having, you know, the honor of having the Harrison Keter, as well as the honorary secretary that is engineering us through on how the future space of engineering looks like. The statistics indicate that currently we only just have 22,000 and professional engineers, and the question is, those that we are churning each and every year from the university, why do they, a majority, end up engineering, you know, as a profession at a time when we're looking at emerging trends, technology, change and such? That is the conversation that we're going to be unpacking for you at exactly 8 a.m. Now back to you, Victor Law in Broadcasting House.
Regina, thank you so much. We'll get back to you later on with the detailed coverage of that IEK conference in Mombasa. Coming back in studio, let's just come back and talk about the issue to do with the internal party disputes. And many political parties are actually grappling with that. You'll find that some of them will jump the gun, either head to the courts for tribunals and all that. And because of that trust deficit that they have as political parties, that it really give you a lot of pressure as an office to iron out issues that you think that they should have handled through their internal party organs.
Yeah, and I think that's why I mentioned earlier and told you that part of our focus now is trying to strengthen the internal political party organs minimize that external conflict. Escalating the internal party conflicts to external, maybe to the political parties' dispute tribunal, for example, which becomes an external body. So we have intentionally created training programs for internal dispute tribunal mechanisms within the political parties. Every political party of the 91 has an internal dispute tribunal committee, which is supposed to handle the issues that arise from that political party, whether it be from the political party primaries, from nominations, and any other issues. And of course, all parties have organs. I mean, they have the delegates conference, they have the National Governing Council, they have the election committees. So all those organs are structures that are supposed to minimize escalation from the internal party conflicts to external. As I said earlier, if we can be able to contain those conflicts within the parties without taking them externally, then it will minimize, this conflict. When somebody is disgruntled within the party, they look for avenues outside, to exercise their rights, and that creates another conflict, because then it goes to another party or it goes to the public. So if we can manage to strengthen, which is our goal, to strengthen the internal organs of the party so that they're able to hold it within the party themselves. By the time they are getting to the outside, they have already resolved and be able to. And I think in the long term, we need to appreciate the difference in ideologies found within the parties. Democracy doesn't mean that we agree on everything. It doesn't mean that we have no differences. Democracy means we are able to accommodate, ourselves within the space we are in. So that if I and you are in the same party and we differ in how we think about something, it doesn't mean that you have to get out of the party for you to exercise. We agree that, okay, you may have a different mind, I have a different one, but we can still stay in the same house. And I think that is part of what needs to grow in our parties in terms of maturity. We need to be able to live within our parties even when we seem to have different opinions about some things and not escalate them outside the party. So we're trying to strengthen that internal organs so that they're able to manage it within the party. And that is an exercise of democracy in itself. You saw the kind of intolerance we have out here is because we have the same intolerance in the parties. People cannot tolerate themselves because you feel like, if you don't agree with me, get out. But that should not be. We should be able to say, well, I don't agree with what you think, but I am still going to remain here. We are looking forward to a time when parties become, permanent vehicles. You get in, you get out, the party keeps moving. It doesn't become a vehicle where if you get out, the party dies. We want to have parties that are institutionalized. They're able to live the test of time. And that's the only way we can say we can have a more stable and more progressive democracy. If we can have parties that are stable.
Okay, let's talk about the issue to the political parties and socio-economic development we have in the country. How does it really enhance that?
Governance is an issue that has to develop from even us as individuals. And I do believe that part of why our constitution provided that the parties have to be, based on national values and good governance is because the same parties we are talking about are the ones that produce the same leaders we have in the political space, whether you're talking about the executive or all that. And so that culture of being able to confine ourselves within what is provided for in our constitution has to be built right from the political parties level, so that when you get to be the president, you do not forget the principles of good governance. You do not forget the national values that we have. You govern within that framework, which you have built right from when you were a member of a political party, which brought you to where you are as a president or as a member of National Assembly or a member of the Senate or any other, elected position that you are in. And so the struggles we have in terms of, of course we have external pressures that we may not be able to control, but there are things that we can manage within our own framework of economies to be able to, maybe stand better chances of having, a forward-looking country. Yes.
Allow me to ask this question. After the repeal of Section 2A and now all of us are enjoying this space we are in today,
yes,
don't you think that we are misusing the space. 91 political parties, and you have got 27 more with provisional, you know, okay. I think in the next 5 or so years we'll be clocking 200.
If you look at it in terms of the numbers, it may sound like, you know, we are having too many parties. But if you look at it in terms of access to a space that you can express yourself,
yes, then
I do not think that there is any number that is too many, because we are looking for provisions. For example, if you have an ideology that doesn't fit with the 91 political parties, what do? You then are not, you know, provided for.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what we are saying is, as long as you're able to get a niche and say, this is what I want to stand for. And that's what I keep telling the parties. You need to define yourself. What do you want to stand for? What is it? What is the space that you want to fill that you think that the 91 have?
And what is the response you get from them?
Oh yeah, the response is, of course, this is what that's why every political party right now, as you speak, they are supposed to submit to us a statement of ideology. That is part of the registration process. And they do a presentation of that. We listen to it. Of course, we have the governing framework of the Constitution and what it should contain, what it should not contain. Of course, the ideologies that you know are errant, we don't want them to be part of our democracy. And so they present that ideology as their political party ideology. That is now, that was not part of the registration in the earlier registration that we had maybe before around 2021 or 2021 there, 2017. But now they have to do that, which is a commitment for them to say, this is what we stand for. Yes. Can they be able to hold that and run with it for as long as it is what they have defined themselves to be? And that is part of what we are trying to build, so that we can stabilize the parties and move them from personal interests to issue-focused and ideology-focused political parties for the purposes of stability and progressive democracy in this country. Yes.
Yeah. Again, you've talked about that aspect of you know, there's a procedure that they need to follow. But then, you as an office, what do you think the political parties are responsible for, or even you, in terms of policy making? Because we need to advance as a nation.
Of course, the reason that political parties exist is so that one is of course get power and form government and influence policies. Okay, that is part of why political parties exist. So, as a regulator, what we are trying to do is trying to create an environment that will allow the public to identify the kind of people they would wish to shape their policy, to shape their economy, to shape their values. So, the only place that can be found is within the political parties.
Yes.
Of course, we now have independent candidates, you know, people who say, I don't belong to any party, I just want to stand by my own. Again, we have the bigger framework, which is the Constitution, that holds all of us accountable, whether you are standing as an individual or standing as a political party. You have that provision. But for the office, our responsibility is the political parties sector, where we want to give that environment that a party is able to build a leadership from themselves that is able to influence this country in a direction that is desired for the benefit of the citizens of Kenya, not for the benefit of the party. Yes.
How is your office and the National Assembly working hand in hand to enhance democracy in the country?
Of course, the National Assembly is a key legislative organ. We are governed by an Act of Parliament, the Political Parties Act, which came to effect in 2011. We cannot do that on our own. And so each and every time we have to make recommendations of what we feel needs to be part of our governing instructions for the political parties. And of course that has to go to Parliament. You know, that has to go to Parliament for review, and of course for making it a law for us to be able to use it effectively. So I mean that's a very strong relationship between our office and the National Assembly, because that's where we take all our recommendations for reforms in terms of what we require to do in terms of law. Yes.
Great. You know, Wanjiku is enlightened right now, and Wanjiku understands the importance of public participation. How are you handling that to onboard Wanjiku in the political parties formation, running of the political parties, and of course discharging the mandate and ideologies of the political parties?
Yeah, and I think I spoke to that earlier and said part of our focus and our dream is that we get to develop the 47 counties. That is first of our focus, that we get to develop the 47 counties so that we are then accessible, even as an office, in terms of people coming to find information and all that. Secondly, we are engaging different groups at different levels. We are engaging the youth, we are engaging women, we are engaging the special interest groups, and at the levels that they are, the counties and even the constituencies where we have opportunities. Of course, we are leveraging on partnerships with organizations because we do not have that capacity to do all that, as I told you. Secondly, we're also exploring avenues with the media, like yourselves, and how we can onboard information for purposes of the public, probably floating out, what are the requirements of forming a political party, so that it is out there. People know without having to go to a constitution. They know this is what is required for a party to be formed. These are the organs of a political party. These are how the organs are going to function. This is how the political party is supposed to conduct itself frequently, have elections and all that, so that we want to make we want to undo the myth that political parties are individuals. They are public bodies. They are supposed to be accountable to the public. And so part of that is exposing as much information as possible through all the means that we can get. That is part of our focus as we move, because I do believe that you cannot make an informed choice without information. Democracy is not about just being fair. It's about knowing how to make that choice. And part of that is giving them the right information. That is what we are giving ourselves to provide.
You are just the new sheriff in town. What keeps you awake at night? When you think of political parties, our country, what really keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake at night? Of course, political space in Kenya is a very tricky space. And there's a lot that we struggle with. But I think part of what I think about most of the time is how do we learn to move forward without undoing the gains we have already done. Because I think that is part of our bigger challenge. And I really pray that we become more front-looking as opposed to...
You sound so hopeful.
Yes, I am hopeful, because I think this country has that ability. I think we do. I think the political parties we have, I mean, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but I think looking back from where we have come from, I have a lot of hopes that we can make this country a better place. Even the political parties we have, they can be a stronger political parties, because that intention is there. And even the coming of the young generation is something that I look forward to, how they can be onboarded so that they can move this democracy within the parties and this country forward. Yes.
I mean, we are headed to a heated season, but I know you earlier said that we start politics from day one. How are you ready as political parties so that you weed out, fraudulent political parties and have Kenyans given the bona fide parties to go to an election?
Yeah, of course, that becomes a very busy time for us, just as it is for the electoral body. What happens within this period is of course, parties, gearing themselves for elections. And so we're having a lot of engagements in terms of compliance, because that is part of the requirement. Every party has to be
Which is a very big challenge.
It's a very big challenge. But, as I said earlier, when you get into the process of becoming a registered political party, you will understand it is not as easy as people think. That's why I don't agree with saying that we have briefcase political party. If there is a briefcase party, it is not a registered political party, because for you to be a registered political party, you cannot be a briefcase political party. It is not possible. So part of what we are doing is having regular compliance clinics. Actually, we had one last week. Where we have all the 91 registered political parties attending. And we do actual clinic. It's not just a word, it's actual clinic. We sit like this with each political party.
And you go through
step by step. This is what you need to do. For this, you are 90% here, you are 40% here, you are 50% here. And we give time frames, You have maybe the next 30 days to try and comply with this. and give us feedback, and we will come and supervise. And we just don't say. We actually literally go to those offices in the 47 counties to find out whether that information is available. And that will happen more as we go closer to 2027, because we need them to be more compliant as we move towards 2027. And of course, part of the other engagement we want to do is trying to onboard the parties early enough for us to be able to, kind of reduce the tension that is going to, building up. We can see from the by-elections, there's a lot of tension, and that will involve a lot of other stakeholders, maybe our partner IBC and other people. We need to come together so that we can engage actively the leaderships of the political parties, the real leaderships of the political parties, for them to be able to accommodate, each other and preserve the peace that we have in this country.
Wow. I think just we have to wrap it up there. 1 hour gone, just like that.
Oh, it's already done?
Yeah, it's already done. I wish you had more time.
Well, we will have more time.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you create some time for us.
We will.
We'll appreciate.
Thank you so much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I know it's murky waters, but you are up to task.
Yeah, well, it's murky waters. It's our waters.
Yes.
We have to find a way of making it clean.
It belongs to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. John Cox Loriononko, who is the Registrar of Political Parties. We've talked about just beyond the party lines, beyond the political parties. We need to understand. I now learned something. Thank you so much for joining us. GMK takes a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Let me explain.
I don't need to hear your explanations. You and my sister are both disgusting.
Hey, Lucia, please don't go. Listen to me.
With your filthy hands.
Lucia, wait. Can't you understand that she doesn't want to talk to you? I don't have any reason to claim a child that isn't even mine.
Why didn't you tell me that you're friends with Ricardo Marquez?
What? But he wasn't my friend.
Why did you do this to me, Nor?
I did that because I couldn't stand the idea of you being happy. Because I wanted to see you suffer.
How could you do that to your own sister?
Alonso, you hurt him.
Get out of here.
In Kenya, thousands of families face a quiet crisis, a disease that erases names, faces, and stories. This is Alzheimer's disease, and according to Dr. Magada, Alzheimer's is at times mistaken for dementia. But how do they differ?
Alzheimer's disease is part of a group of diseases that cause what we call dementia. Dementia is defined as a progressive decline in cognitive abilities. When we talk about cognitive abilities, we are saying reduction in ability to learn, loss of memory, altered behavior. And so dementia then encompasses many other diseases apart from Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is part of what we call primary dementia. Other types include vascular dementias, and it's important that we differentiate, because there are also some dementias that are caused by reversible causes, for example, depression. Thyroid disorders can give memory issues. Now, Alzheimer's, in Alzheimer's, there is a part of the brain that controls learning that is usually affected, the hippocampus. It's a part of the brain. So it gets affected, and then you get, the people start declining in their ability to remember things, especially recent memory. They can remember remote memory, the long-term things, things that were done long ago, but they can't remember the immediate things. And that therefore means learning becomes an issue.
Alzheimer's in often cases is mistaken for normal aging. However, it affects over 50,000 Kenyans, mostly those over 60 years, but awareness is low. It is still the past, but love, patience, and understanding can protect the present. Alzheimer's is accompanied by various symptoms.
You get loss of memory, especially recent memory. You'll find that they may not remember where they have kept their phones or their money. You find some bit of change in behavior. And then some become aggressive. They even, you get for people forgetting the names of others or who they are, yet they're part of the family. So mainly it's the issue of memory, but you get impaired learning as well. And also, like I said, change in behavior. And this progresses from early signs, and it keeps going to a situation where now they are not even able to, if they get out of the compound, they will not know how to get back. So they are sort of limited to certain levels.
In Kenyan communities, Alzheimer's is often misunderstood. Some call it madness, others think it's a curse. And the progressive brain disorder sadly not only affects thinking, but it also triggers behavior change which could cause trauma. The question is, what are the risk factors of Alzheimer's?
Age and genetics. It's a progressive disease. And because it's a progressive disease, sometimes there may be very little that can be done. However, there are certain factors that could sort of precipitate it. We've had, from experience, patients who, when they are given certain drugs, for example, sedatives, or drugs to alter their behavior, antipsychotics, then the symptoms are triggered. So usually we have to look around nutrition, we have to look around factors that would alter their mood, causing depression. We have to look around drugs that they could be taking. We have to look around the underlying comorbidities underlying the diseases, for example, diabetes, hypertension. We have to look around all those to make sure they are well taken care of, because they pose a risk in precipitating memory disturbances in a patient who is already genetically predisposed or age-wise predisposed.
While there is no cure for Alzheimer's, early diagnosis and compassionate care can make a difference. But what is the treatment plan for Alzheimer's?
Some of the treatments that we employ are treatments that improve.
Good morning. As we mentioned, we are in County 001, that is Mombasa County, that is going to be playing host to the 32nd IEK convention. That is all futuristic, so to speak, in as far as the theme of this convention is concerned. How does the future roadmap of IEK look like? So just to put a perspective on where we are, that is how it's looking outside. As I mentioned, we are at the beachfront. This is Paradise, Pride in Paradise, this in Shanzu, Mombasa. The temperatures outside currently are around 27 degrees Celsius, and we are expecting that this is going to get hotter as we proceed into the day. And that's why we have made it inside, indoors, as we mentioned, to the Arabuko Hall, where I'm joined by two gentlemen who are going to paint the picture of what to expect in the convention. This is going to take a week-long duration, where we're expecting not only government representation, but also industry players. We're looking at engineers themselves, private sector, as well as researchers, to see how we are looking like in as far as the engineering space is concerned, and what is in the offing going forward into the future. So joining me on my immediate right is none other than the first Vice President, that is Engineer Harrison Keter. Thank you very much for making time. And last but not least, on my far end, to my right, is none other than the Honorary Secretary IEK, Engineer Jackton Mwembe. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
You know, when we say it is hot and we see a gentleman in a suit, they may not believe me, but hey, it is very hot. But that aside, so excuse us if you see us sweating. But yeah, it's the hot seat, so to speak, because we have to set the tone of this particular convention, gentlemen. So we'd want to look at the issues of, let's start off with the fact that this year's convention focuses on engineering the future, the roadmap for Kenya. So from your perspective, Engineer Harrison Keter, yes, what are the three top pillars IEK is prioritizing to ensure that engineers meaningfully influence national development?
Thank you for having me, Regina. Once more, my name is Engineer Harrison Keter, the first Vice President, Institution of Engineers of Kenya. The 32nd IEK convention holds a special place for the engineering fraternity. And the theme has been well chosen to reflect what the engineers need to focus on. Engineering the future, the roadmap for Kenya. We want this particular convention and the conversation therein to inform the roadmap for development in Kenya. So basically, we're going to be looking at the key priorities the government has set in place, including infrastructure, innovation, and then we'll have the larger theme of engineering capacity building, which now prepares the engineers into the implementation mode of the roadmap that has been set by government. And it's a special place because we're also having benchmarks, and these would come in the form of international delegates. We have about 32 of them from over 10 countries, including Russia, Ghana, Zambia, and many of other African countries, just for us to be able to benchmark and see how we can contribute as engineers into the conversation. We now don't want to be bystanders. But now we want to be at the center of it, setting the stage.
You want engineers to be at the center stage when it comes to infrastructure and also all other developments within the country. Exactly. Now, we've heard robust sessions with government, you know, public sector transformation, engineering, procurement. So what gaps does IEK see in policy or regulation that needs urgent attention, you know, to strengthen the project delivery in Kenya? Engineer Mwembe.
Thank you very much, Regina, for having me. Again, Engineer Jackton Mwembe. I'm the Honorary Secretary to the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. And we are happy to be at the coast once again after the 31st convention. This is the second IK International Convention, which attracts global players and also the local players, both private and the public sector. Based on the objectives of Institution of Engineers of Kenya, we see so much that government is actually doing, and we can be able to appreciate the extent to which they have done. However, you've mentioned about the gaps, and these gaps in the policy are so key that if not taken care of in good time, we'll realize that most of the projects that are being implemented, infrastructure project actually, will not be able to take off as required. And this includes like issues dealing with the procurement. The procurement policy is one of the key areas because it's the beginning of the implementation of a project. So some areas in terms of engagement, how do you engage even the professionals from the inception? How do you procure them? How do you fund the infrastructure project and the mega projects that are happening in this country? Do we have proper framework for the PPP? You heard the president talk about issues dealing with roads during the nation address. That so many projects are going to be implemented in this nation, but in terms of the frameworks that are there in terms of PPPs and engagement of the locals, those need to come out in a policy document to ensure that we safeguard the interest of the country while we play global. So that is just one of the areas in terms of procuring the players or the implementers of these particular projects. We also have policies that govern the engagement of the local professionals, including specifically we talk about our engineers, because engineers have been left out or they've been escorting the international community or international experts. We want policies that will be able to incorporate and bring on board substantively the role of local engineers into the into the implementation of our projects, because we have the capacity, we've been trained in the right way, and we believe our engineers can still be able to move forward and lead with the experts, probably the foreign expert being part and parcel of that as Kenyans take the lead into the future. That's why this year's convention is about the roadmap for Kenya, and that roadmap must include personnel. Thank you.
I like how you have candidly put that, the roadmap has to include personnel, and you have highlighted that particular issue. It's that at the procurement aspect and also the enforcement of these particular policies that have already been laid down. Now, there are continued concerns, about stalled or poor quality infrastructure projects. It has been going on for years. What role can IEK or is IEK playing, to enhance professionalism, oversight, and ethical conduct among engineers? Engineer Katera.
Okay, thank you, Regina. Yeah, it is true, and it's in public domain that we have seen many stalled projects. The gaps have actually been misrepresented sometimes. Sometimes the finger has been pointed at the engineers. But then when you look at the process itself, the process would have other activities or scopes that not fall within the purview of the engineer. For instance, the engineers would do the design and their documents would be used to do the approvals. How come that the same project would be implemented without the same engineers whose credentials were used in the approvals? So there's a gap in the process of supervision of the same, and in the process of licensing, or what I would call rather the supervision from the implementing agencies. Because you can't use an engineer's credentials and then later on have a different person do it. And then when they come in, you want to play the engineers. So what does IEK play? Now, IEK has played a key role in capacity building of engineers. We have various training programs aimed at capacitating our engineers and actually informing them of their rights and what they can do. But besides that, IEK have been a strong advocate of what needs to be done right. But then now for this to happen right, we require partnership between IEK and government agencies. Specifically, there is a particular role that can be given to IEK that would not only sort out the problem, but also create employment for engineers. And this is the role of inspection. Inspection of these projects. The counties definitely do not have the capacity in terms of personnel. But here, we have thousands of engineers without jobs. And this is where IEK can come in. Besides the engineers, IEK has presence in all the counties in Kenya in terms of offices and engineers in those particular places. These are the people who can actively take part in actually supervision of projects and ensure that what is happening is right. And besides that, there is need to have policies that would ensure that proprietors, business people, construction companies, irrespective of who the owners are, employ professional and qualified engineers and engineering technicians in their fields. Then that is the time you can hold engineers accountable.
There are those who argue, and I would represent them as a devil's advocate in this case, that our engineers are too expensive, you know, to have working on these particular projects. Like if someone is constructing a house, they'd rather just do it out of so-and-so built my friend's house, I will use them, whether they are registered or not. You people are being said, within the particular value chain, are too expensive. Let's hear from Mwembe first, then you come back, as you're charging to respond to me. Mwembe, what do you, is our capacity, are we too expensive, too exorbitant in our engineering field?
Regina, what is expensive?
It's like asking me what is affordable.
Exactly. You know, when we are talking about development, we are not talking about cheap thing. You are putting money into, it's a capital investment where millions and or billions of shillings are put into a project that has got cost, has got safety, has got also timelines. And therefore, the only person who can be able to help you in that implementation to achieve these goals, especially on the safety of the property and safety of the people, is the engineer or the professional.
The professional.
Exactly.
So there is no price too high for professionalism.
There is no price too high for that because it has anything to do with life. There is a saying that I like talking about here, that we have other professionals that can bury their mistake, but an engineer cannot bury the mistake. Because if there is a road that is there and it's killing people, it is killing people. It will always be there. For a building that collapses, it collapses and it kills people. If there's an error in it, that error, you live with it, you cannot bury it unless that building collapses. So a professional will be able to take you off that particular state and give you value for money.
Value for money.
Yes.
You are agreeing?
Yeah, thank you, Regina.
Value
That's
for
really
money.
value for money. However, just to put into perspective, I would like you to just paint the picture of the cost of foreign experts globally and what our engineers are paid.
All right.
Without even going far, definitely
the
we
comparison
have
is
comparatively cheap labor. But then there's what we call engineering the total cost of ownership. The total cost of ownership actually refers to not just the initial cost of owning a property, an equipment, or whatever it is, but the long-term cost you are going to incur. And in this case, when we talk about cheap, some of the costs that are usually incurred by investors are the following. Very huge operations and maintenance costs. For instance, if you are talking of a road, if you do cheap, within 2 weeks, within 1 month, you have potholes, you need to do it. Then you have issues of collapsed buildings. I don't know which engineer can be equivalent to the cost of a collapsed building? Then look at the deaths, the safety that goes into it. No,
there's no
our
price
engineers
to
are quite affordable.
Now, since we're still talking about money matters, is that the National Treasury has been cited and documented having, brought forth new models for infrastructure financing. So how is the Kenyan engineering fraternity sector ready to engage in PPPs, blended finance, and alternative funding models? What do you think about these particular proposals? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. Again, financing is a big challenge globally, especially infrastructure financing. And in this 32nd IEK convention, we have a topic specifically targeting governance and policy governance and financing of infrastructure projects. And we are looking at now new models and innovative models. And we have templates globally, and PPPs is one of the models that has been applied in very many places globally. And as engineers, definitely we know this is the way to go. And the reason is simple. We do not have the resources as a country in terms of hard cash to do that. We may have the raw materials, but then we need to procure technology and expertise, which we do not have. We need to have immediate funds to actually buy financing models. Then we need to look at ways of how can we make these PPPs cheaper for Kenyans. And one simple way is looking at the human capital. We can buy the equipment and the technology, but when it comes to the human capital, Kenya has enough engineers and experts to partake in the business of construction, so that in this financing itemize the aspect and the cost of human capital, and that becomes our contribution, as a country. We also have to look at, with these PPPs, where are the raw materials coming from? We have to actually ensure that we make sure that a good percentage come from within the country. And
resource raw materials. Engineer Mwembe, what do you have to say in regard to that? To lower the cost of these particular projects, and also to just ensure that we buy Kenya, build Kenya.
I want to agree with Engineer Keter.
Yes.
So we have policies in this country that talks about local content. And that should actually, I know it used to talk about 30%, it has 40%, it actually should be 50%. We cannot say that we lack professionals. So they are there. We need to take over with time, because we cannot keep on talking about no foreigners coming into the country. We need to grow, and with time, approach 100%. So in terms of local content and PPPs, I think that one I agree with fully. Materials, Kenya is rich with so many of these natural resources. Let us have all the materials coming from the country. If we have to value add onto anything, let it be done. We would like to have the international community coming to this Kenya, establishing themselves in this country, so that we can have within the industry where value addition is happening, we have Kenyans being part of it. We have Tigal, we have these industries to ensure that they value add to the natural resources, so that this same material can be used for our own development. So if we look at the future and we bring it on board, such kind of, investors, then we cannot be, manufacturing from other countries, then we import. That is, we are undoing, and we are actually shooting ourselves. So I think as the President also mentioned, that is the Honorable William Ruto, that should be one of the areas that he should be able to focus on, local establishment of industries, to ensure that we absorb our own young people and young professionals that are coming out of the universities and the colleges. And PPPs should be able to come out clearly, whether it is manufacturing, industry, or whatever, implementation of projects. They should be able to bring on board, as First BP has mentioned, itemized and clear direction in terms of that engagement. It's not only on paper. In Kenya, it has been happening on paper, where a CV is, you share your CV, it's being used by an international or a foreign company, then you are kicked out of the project. And you know, monitoring should be there to ensure that this is implemented across to the end of such project and end of the life of the project, so that we are sure our people are actually being engaged, because on the ground things are different.
But then what does the regulator do then in this particular space? Because what I'm hearing from you is, well, in theory the policy looks very good, but then the actualities do not match the reality, you know, and the perceived, you know, future as we're looking at. So what is a gap, you know, on the regulation and monitoring? Keter, is it a capacity issue, or is it a lack of willingness? What is the issue?
Thank you, Regina. To actually do regulation enforcement, you need resources. And that's really very, very important. So that if we talk about, say, the Engineers Board of Kenya, for instance, I don't think the Engineers Board of Kenya has sufficient staff and financial resources to be able to do the kind of regulation implementation. And actually is to ensure that the board is resourced adequately so that it is able to do its mandate. And I'll give you another example where, for instance, this has been able to be enforced. When it comes to, I work in the energy sector, I work for KenGen, and we handle a lot of huge infrastructure projects. One of the things we do is, as we require the CVs of the participants, the experts, various experts who are going to participate in projects, you cannot change a participant without express authorization from the client. In this case, KenGen, for instance, if you had given us the CV of an expert A, you cannot just change A and bring B or D at will. That has to go through the same vetting process that the other went through, including verification from EBK, where EBK now has the mandate to confirm from the original country from which the particular expert comes from. And this brings me to an important concept which just happened the other day, and this is the mutual recognition, where Kenya engineers now have become provisional members of the Washington Accord, which is going to facilitate mobility. To be able to enforce this, you need resources. And these resources includes financial resources, but also human capital. So if funds are availed to EBK, then EBK is going to employ engineers. Again, we are sorting out the unemployment problem. Right. So the key is implementation.
So we need resources. We'll be having a moment with Engineer Margaret Ogai in the course of this particular convention. Maybe she can put into perspective exactly where the gaps are from a regulator point of view. Now, this particular convention has themes around talent development. We're talking about AI and multi-skilling. So how is IK preparing, you know, young and mid-career engineers for a future where soft skills and cross-disciplinary knowledge is also very essential? Let's start off with Engineer Mwembe. I can see you nodding. You're the Honorary Secretary of IK. What are you doing in this particular regard?
Yeah, thank you very much, Regina. Once again, you know, the future is the life of a country and life of an organization. So our first day is purely dedicated. We are going to have leaders, leaders in this country who are going to lead, to take us through these particular programs. And these, we
Auntie, please nifungulie gate niende.
Nani amekuchokoza niende ni deal na yeye sahi?
Heri wazazi wangu wangekuwa walevi na wanipenda.
Failures. Mtapata shida hapa mpaka mtamani kifo. Nisho mushukulu wenyu Andrea. Shigwa ya university. Shiru shikadusha mno. Haiduwe.
Yama umeona hiye nini? Kama sunde ile kazi msudi anafanya.
Kazi gani?
Anajiita balozi wa matumaini.
Anchekiaje wewe? Hali yako hali yangu manzi.
Ulikuwa unaitwa nani?
Sio tena nilikuwa naitwa.
Unabivaje kama mama Manguete na wewe ni jogo?
Brate, usinite brate. Ni nini sasa msimu unatandika msichana mtoko yani?
Unakimbia nini? Kuja hapa.
Nilikuwa nafukuza mbwa. Unachua chori aishi. Ndo. Ameishi na mke wake lakini katika hali ya wishi. Ameoa mwizi.
Nini mbaya?
Unaenda Kawosa. Unapata mtu wa Kawosa yuko.
Ongea druge Kiswahili.
Niko pesa chakula.
In Kenya, thousands of families face a quiet crisis, a disease that erases names, faces, and stories. This is Alzheimer's disease, and according to Dr. Magada, Alzheimer's is at times mistaken for dementia. But how do they differ?
Alzheimer's disease is part of a group of diseases that cause what we call dementia. Dementia is defined as a progressive decline in cognitive abilities. When we talk about cognitive abilities, we are saying reduction in ability to learn, loss of memory, altered behavior. And so dementia then encompasses many other diseases apart from Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is part of what we call primary dementia. Other types include vascular dementias, and it's important that we differentiate because there are also some dementias that are caused by reversible causes, for example, depression. Thyroid disorders can give memory issues. Now, Alzheimer's, in Alzheimer's, there is a part of the brain that controls learning that is usually affected, the hippocampus. It's a part of the brain. So it gets affected, and then you get, the people start declining in their ability to remember things, especially recent memory. They can remember remote memory, the long-term things, things that were done long ago, but they can't remember the immediate things. And that therefore means learning becomes an issue.
Alzheimer's in often cases is mistaken for normal aging. However, it affects over 50,000 Kenyans, mostly those over 60 years. But awareness is low. It stills the past, but love, patience, and understanding can protect the present. Alzheimer's is accompanied by various symptoms.
You get loss of memory, especially recent memory. You'll find that they may not remember where they have kept their phones or their money. You find some bit of change in behavior. And then some become aggressive. They even, you get people forgetting the names of others or who they are, yet they're part of the family. So mainly it's the issue of memory, but you get impaired learning as well. And also, like I said, change in behavior. And this progresses from early signs and it keeps going to a situation where now they are not even able to, if they get out of the compound, they will not know how to get back. So they are sort of limited to certain levels.
In Kenyan communities, Alzheimer's is oftenly misunderstood. Some call it madness, others think it's a curse. And the progressive brain disorder sadly not only affects thinking, but it also triggers behavior change which could cause trauma. The question is, what are the risk factors of Alzheimer's?
Age and genetics. It's a progressive disease. And because it's a progressive disease, sometimes there may be very little that can be done. However, there are certain factors that could sort of precipitate it. We've had from experience patients who, when they're given certain drugs,
Welcome back. We are on the prelude of the 32nd REK convention happening here in Mombasa. And the conversation this morning is, what should you expect from this particular convention? What are the thematic areas being discussed? And what is the role, of the young engineers within this particular space? That is where we left it off, and that is where we're picking up. Now, industry has not been responsive per se, to the young engineers who need practical experience. Maybe that's the reason why a majority are dropping off and not, working within the engineering space. As, a unit as IEK.
Thank you, Regina. In response to the challenge of engineering capacity building, IEK has a robust training program. It's actually a year-long program that we identify RIBAs, which is something in the build environment, civil engineers, and then we've partnered with a company which is dealing with materials engineering and training in that area. We had a training on artificial intelligence for engineers, which we partnered with the Chinese Academy of Science and Technology, and the training was offered by trainees from the Open University of Kenya. And this is really a very interesting concept where now the same thing we want to get foreign experts from, we can get it locally here. I can tell you the training was well received by members, but apart from that also, there's a big role IEK is doing, which is actually linking the industry, academia, and the students. It is one area we have really focused on to ensure that we are able to bring these people together through forums, through programs, that they engage and talk and see how best they can work together. Now, if you look at the perspective of some of the foreign nations that have developed, the industry have a very crucial role that they play in capacity building and actually research. they specifically fund training and research in their areas of operation. If you are, for instance, in the built environment, you would have the cement manufacturers, funding research in new cement properties and material properties. In Kenya, we do not have that. Again, like you said, engineering is a practical course. People need to do something about it. And this is where we call our, industry to come and help, attach the students. And as they attach the students, they need to do something that is fair to them. These are students, they have no money. Please provide them with some basic stipend just to cover their basic needs, housing, transport, and all that. But then if you come again to now, how we are enhancing this. We are actually profiling success stories. And in this convention, we have examples of what has happened. And I'll take the Kengen experience. Kengen has a geothermal training center. And this is how it has been able to be very successful. Previously, we had exploration and drilling for geothermal being done by foreign experts, very expensive foreign experts. But because of setting up geothermal training center, Kengen has been able to train its engineers and scientists to do the same things.
Right.
And it has gone ahead now to help train the region in the same space. If we can do that and replicate it in different other sectors,
it would be
we will actually meet
at the middle.
Yeah.
Now, the employment gap is a challenge within this particular space. Now, we had the 10,000 engineers march for employment, and that's the conversation around unemployment and re-employment of engineers. So how does IEK, work with government as well as private sector and counties, to expand these opportunities? Engineer Mwembe, we've heard what they're doing in terms of scalability in capacity, but what else can we do to bring all these entities? Engineer Mwembe.
Thank you very much. One of the areas, I want to start from where we started, from the regulator. Yes. I think they have a program that they are running, the graduate mentorship program that has been running, and that graduate mentorship program usually has a number that it has been capped to that particular number because of finances and funding. So as IEK, what we are looking at is to ensure that we engage in terms of how even the regulator can be empowered in terms of funding, so that that number can be able to grow from what it is now to probably, getting to 1,000 or something like that. Because these are graduates that needs to be trained so that when they go to the market, they understand what is happening there. The other thing that also we need to look at to resolve this issue in capacity building and unemployment is to ensure that when we come to the infrastructure project, there must be allocation, allocation of funds to train graduates. As you can find, like NEMA usually has a percentage that they charge for the project. Why can't we have this in each and every government project that will be able to absorb from 100 to 200 graduates? So that they are engaged in this particular project throughout their life. Most of the projects are running 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. By the time they're hitting the 3rd year, they will have gotten enough training such that when they are moving from graduate state to a professional state, then they at least have the projects that they have done. So it's a two-pronged thing, that they gain the experience and at the same time, they can be able to transit from being a graduate to professional. And IK also works closely with the private sector to ensure that there's partnership. I think First BC has mentioned. Yeah. And these, we usually promote that engagement with the young people to ensure that you can be able to absorb 5 to 10 or so within a particular sector. You'll be able to absorb so much of these engineers out of the streets, and at least they'll have something to help them run their lives. And we are looking still forward to ensure that the scheme of service, which we have discussed with the government over a period of time, because this one talks about the mode of payment, even the amount to be paid to engineers at the entry level. Currently, it's at 25,000 shillings. That is it's called a stipend. But life, life has continued to be difficult, and this can be able to be improved further. So the continuous engagement with the government will enable us also to improve on the living standards of the young people. So we continue to engage that our members who are also experiencing or going through, hardship can also be able to get the allowances, that hardship allowances. I think this is a very critical policy that needs to be passed so that engineers as professionals also can be able to benefit from the government initiatives. And IK is actually pushing for that.
Engineer Mwembe, before I let you proceed, is that we want our sound engineer to work on your sound so that we can get back with this conversation. So now let me engage Harrison Keter on the next engineer, Harrison Keter. Now, we know that government, has been very vocal, and it aims to drive industrial growth. Through energy parks, we're looking at climate smart agriculture, transport corridors, and manufacturing hubs. So as it is, that is what we intend to do. But would want to also understand what are the biggest, engineering capacity gaps standing in the way of this particular ambition, and how can we, correct this in the short term? Because we're already in this particular space. We're already talking about over 1 million who are staring at starvation. That is something we need to address. We're looking at poor infrastructure, a lot of traffic, collapsed buildings, We are already in this particular space. So in the short term, how do we address that?
Okay, thank you, Regina. I think it's not just enough to wish and talk. We actually have to walk the talk. And I want to laud government program in certain areas. For instance, we have 100% transition from pre-primary to primary school, 100% transition from primary to secondary, and probably something close to 100 also from secondary to universities and tertiary colleges. But what percentage do we have for transition from university or tertiary colleges to the job market? And are we intentional about it? Do we even mention that we need this kind of transition? I think the answer is no. So I'll give the example of engineers. How can we have just 500 engineers being attached on the graduate internship program? This is a definite number. We know every year 5,000 engineers, engineering students graduate. Why don't we plan to absorb all of them? Now, that is just one I did on the previous aside. Come to the industrial parks. I don't think the problem we have is that of capacity. And this, I insist. I refuse to accept that. The problem we have for industrialization in the country is other factors. And now I want to mention them.
Yeah, break it down. What factors?
One of them is the cost of electricity. Investors or industries will move to places where the cost of business is low. And the cost of electricity in this country is high. But then, what is causing this high cost of electricity? It's not the cost of production. Kenyan gives power at very cheap rates.
There are those who would argue with you and say the cost of evacuation of power is quite expensive, but you're within the value chain. Maybe you can take this. You can take this moment to actually explain, because there's been that current debate, and there's also a proposal to increase, the cost of.
Just to confirm that, you need to look at your power bill. Probably close to 50%. It's cost of taxes and levies. That is where the catch is. It's not in the actual cost of power. But then we can recover these taxes and levies differently if we brought down the cost of power and spur industries. We would have many industries to tax and to give more money that will plug into this deficit we have in terms of financing. And I want to use the example of industrial parks. I'm particular about industrial parks because at the moment we are running a project in Olkaria as Kenyan on industrial parks, where we have provided, the government has actually provided preferential treatment or tariffs for investors who wish to invest in an industrial park, including lower tariffs on electricity, including tax reliefs, for some period, and incentives.
All right.
That is what we need to do as a country to be able to attract this. Then we look at the other thing.
No, I'd have to cut you short at that point. We are expected to hand over to State House any minute from now. So I'll give you one word, 30 seconds before I hand it over to my colleague Vivian to just bring this to a close so that we can be ready to hand over to the rest of the programming in State House. We're expecting that President William Ruto is going to be or rather inviting and hosting the Malaysian Prime Minister anytime from now. So Engineer Keter, 30 seconds, Engineer Mwembe, 30 seconds. Expectations of this particular convention.
Thank you, Regina. For this particular convention, I expect engineers to interact with fellow engineers, share experiences, and most importantly, pick out something that can be implemented in their places of work and run away with it.
All right, engineers to speak to engineers and chart the way forward. Engineer Mwembe.
Thank you, Regina. Once again, it's the 32nd convention, international convention, and we are having the international community represented here. We need to see how we can be able to implement the partnerships that we have had with the international community and the local community, the private sector, so that we can be able to absorb the young people and also enhance the capacity of the existing firms to ensure that also they can be able to absorb. That employment is a key issue in this country, and that is what outcome we want, that this convention can be able to absorb, at least address the issue. Partly, it's something is a long term, but partly let us address the issue of unemployment in the country by engaging engineers in everything that we do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That is Engineer Jackton Mwembe, who is a Honorary Secretary, IEK. That industry has to work with academia to ensure that we address the issue of unemployment and build capacity within the engineering sector. First Vice President, that is Engineer Harrison Keter, is conversations to happen between engineers and chart the way forward. That's just but a quick summary of what to expect as this 32nd IEK convention commences here in Mombasa. The main day is tomorrow. We're expecting various stakeholders, including government representation and academia, as well as the young professionals within this particular value chain, to have a conversation and chart the way forward. Basically, the roadmap of Kenya, looking into the future when it comes to matters of engineering. Now, I want to hand you over back to Broadcasting House to Vivian Degwa, who takes up the rest of the programming. I'm Regina Manyara. Take it away, Vivian.
All right, thank you so very much, Regina, coming to us live from Mombasa for the IEK 32nd convention. Right about now, we get into our health check segment, where we talk matters, not health, rather family check, where we talk matters family. And today we will be talking about mental health awareness. To be specific, we're looking at mental health awareness among the young generation, just trying to see how that looks for them. You know, when you talk about mental wellness, what exactly does that mean for them as the young people? And we'll also, we are also joined by a specialist in this, because he's a mentor, he's a teacher, and an author and a publisher as well. So allow me to introduce my panelists, beginning with Mr. George W. Wafula, who's on my immediate right. Mr. George is a youth and teen mentor. He's a trainer, a teacher, author, and publisher, as I had mentioned earlier. Mr. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for having me.
All right, it's a pleasure. And then let me go to the lady. We have Agnes Mbala. So we have Agnes Mbala. Agnes Mbala is a journalism student. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Vivian.
And then we also have Josam Silaba. Josam is a youth community leader, a mental health advocate, and a podcaster as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, we have Joe Ndoro. Joe is a journalism student as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right, so we have you as the young people to get to tell us what your thoughts on mental health awareness is all about. So I would love to begin with you. Maybe I can start with Joe. When you hear mental health wellness, what does that mean for you?
Okay, when you talk about mental health wellness, I think you have to first understand what mental health means. Mm-hmm. And to me, mental health is just the state of emotional, maybe psychological and social well-being. It is what, you know, affects how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you, you know, relate with others, the kind of choices you make, the decisions that you make. And let me begin by thanking you for, first of all, instigating this conversation. It is a very important conversation to have, especially involving the young generation. I think you have to be aware of what mental health is. Of course, you have to get to understand all the conditions that are, you know, related to mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, and once you get to understand it, that is the first journey.
All right, let me get to hear from Agnes. Agnes, from your point of view, what does mental wellness specifically mean for you?
Okay, thank you, Vivian. For me, mental health includes having a peace of mind, having a coherent thought of reasoning. You're always at par with the issues that are affecting you and the world. You're able to think with others correctly, and you're able to perform in whichever expertise that you are in.
All right.
Yeah.
Josam, you are a mental health advocate. You are loud about mental wellness. Yeah. Maybe if you can just let me know what got you into that, you know, into that point where you decided I will be talking loudly about matters mental health.
Honestly, about what I have gone through and what I have seen youths gone through, I've seen that many youths are afraid to talk about mental health. They're afraid to share about it. Maybe it's because of the stigma, or they are not really, they don't really get to understand more about mental health. And I got into this venture because I wanted to create that safe space for youths and other people to talk about mental health. And sometimes we just have to create that safe space for us to listen. Yeah.
We need space to be listened to.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get back to that. Now, I want to engage you, George. You know, they've mentioned what they feel mental health is all about, and he's talked about the importance of him just wanting to create that space for people to speak openly about their mental wellness, because he's gone through something that we'll get into it later. So just from your point of view, why is it so important for us now to get to talk about mental wellness in this day and age? Why is it important for us to laud it?
Quite very important, because mental health wellness is something or a subject that affects all of us. Only that it happens to be more pronounced around the youth.
I have to cut you short a bit. Let's take a break and then we'll come back to that. Let's take a break.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
And we're back. Thank you for staying with us. Before we took that break, I had just asked you, George, why is it so important for us to talk about mental wellness, especially in this day and age?
Thank you very much. First is to appreciate that the issue of mental health has been there over history of mankind, affecting everybody. And probably in our age, because of the technological space and media highlights, and it tends to put up there every case that happens around. And also our young people are exposed to such cases whereby many of them are being affected, and therefore, and when those who are not affected, they're able to see in the print media, in social media, seeing things that are happening around young people, some taking their lives, some dropping out of school, some involved in drugs. And therefore, it becomes a very, very important conversation to have it right now, in every space, in our homes, in our schools, anywhere that, in that world of young people. And therefore, it's very important, and especially young people, because to them, there's a lot of transition happening around them. It tends to affect them more, and some of them might make decisions based on their state of mental health. So when they are conscious and aware about it, the merits on how to handle it, or how to be able to contain or manage the situation, then it's very critical. Yes.
And maybe just to get to hear from you, Agnes, have you ever been at a point where you are battling, you know, with your mental health? And if you're open to talk about it, you can let us know maybe how you got it to that position and how you were able to overcome it.
Okay, for me, I was able to get out of depression. I believe it happened because I entered into a relationship which later became toxic, and it affected me deeply due to the circumstances that were there. And then because I didn't have let's say a supportive parent that can hear me out of the issues and the prevailing circumstances that were affecting me at that time, I ended up thinking by myself, which and also having entered in a relationship that became toxic, it led me to cutting off the people that I knew, the friends that were close to me. I therefore became closed, and which made me isolated. And that isolation, I believe, is what led me into a world that I never, a world that I never knew I can enter, because as a person, I speak a lot, and it's just not my nature for me to be quiet like that. So in this situation, or in this phase of life, I became a quiet lady. And
no one really realized that you were falling into a depression, because as you mentioned, you're someone who speaks a lot. So when you became, now you're closed, you don't speak much, you know, you keep to yourself, no one really noticed?
Okay. You see, having cut myself from the people that knew me, of course I don't know, maybe at that particular time, things were moving so fast, and I don't know, maybe everybody was having their own life. So very few people could reach to me. Yeah, at that time, because it happened at a phase where I had already dropped out from college, and having dropped out from college due to financial constraints, and all that, it broke my heart. And then after my heart breaking, I entered in a relationship that I never knew is going to be, is going to put me in a valley that I will never understand. So having dropped out from campus and then I entered that relationship, it somehow distanced me from the life that I knew I wanted. You see, I wanted to study, I wanted to finish my degree and then go to the job market, but it didn't happen at that time. So having entered now to the world of relationship, it spoke a different language for me. But because I don't have somebody who is mentoring me or even supporting me that close, and I know if when they listen to me, they will even attest to themselves in their heart, because at that time I didn't have anyone in particular that keeps me at par with the issues of my life. Yeah, like knowing, apart from me studying, how is it monitoring other issues, you see? So I've dropped out, and then I have entered into a relationship because I want to feel like life is continuing. Yeah, so I've cut off the life of education and the friends that I had at that time, and now I've entered a relationship. I don't know if maybe I was, yeah, I can say maybe I was ignorant, because I started the relationship with not much knowledge of how, let's say, because it became like a come we stay. Yeah. Yeah, being in that particular age, like is it 23? It's a very what can I call it? Delicate. It's a very delicate age. Even now, it's a very delicate age, and that is where you're supposed to have somebody who is always working with you.
Yeah, I agree with you on
that. Yes.
Maybe, Joe, just to get your point of view, do you as young people talk amongst yourself matters mental wellness? Because as she said, no one really knew what she was battling. You know, yes, she had cut off her friends and all, but just from you and, you know, the circle you keep and the friends you have around you, is this something that ever comes up? Do you ever sit and, you know, talk amongst yourselves, ask each other how you feeling, especially as a man? Because, you know, most men don't really talk about their issues. So is this something that you get to talk about? And do we pay enough attention to the people around us?
Okay, we do talk. But one thing that I've noticed is that most people are in depression, but they actually do not know that they are in depression.
Yeah.
And for us as young people, sometimes we tend to ignore our peers whenever they try to share things with us. And, you know, some people are very expressive, even on these socials. Probably you will be there, and then you see a story, someone is saying that life is difficult. Someone may be saying that he has gotten to a point that he or she wants to end their lives. And I think sometimes we do not pay attention. We look at it and think, where wacha? This is not, it is not that serious, you see. I had a friend who was battling depression, but he didn't actually know that he was undergoing depression. And I think losing a parent can be, okay, I think it's the biggest factor that is leading many people into depression. And you find after losing a parent, there is no one to actually take you through the healing process. Even the family members, they only talk about, you know, supporting you financially, paying for your school fees, but no one really gets to take you through the healing process. I'm lucky to have all my parents alive, But I know that for many people, you know, some of us, we are very intentional with what we want, with our goals. And you might find that your parent has sacrificed a lot for you to be able to reach where you've been able to reach.
All right, I'll cut you short a bit. We need to head over to State House, Nairobi, where the president has a visitor. There's a state visit by Prime Minister of Malaysia, and that is Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. If we can just head over to State House, Nairobi, right this very moment for that. There we have it. That's State House, Nairobi. That is what is happening. We have a state visit by Prime Minister of Malaysia. That is Mr. Anwar Ibrahim. He is expected to be there any minute. We've been able to see the president who's already there. And we'll be having the Kenya-Malaysia bilateral ties. That is the main thing that will be talked about in this state visit. There we have it. You can see the president. We can also see the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, right there. And the talks today will mainly center on cooperation within trade, investment and tourism as well. That will be the talks today. The focus will be on cooperation in trade, investment and tourism that will be highlighted in this particular conversation that will be had between the two countries, that is Kenya and Malaysia, the bilateral ties between the two countries. The Prime Minister of Malaysia is already in the country and is expected to be seen within no moment now, right there during the state visit that will be happening in State House Nairobi. That is exactly what you're seeing on your screens right now. That is State House Nairobi, and we will be getting into that as soon as they get ready, as soon as the conversation begins, and as soon as Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim of Malaysia gets there. We will get directly to that and get to listen in to what will be talked about. Just to remind you once again, the main focus on today's meeting will be on...
This is live broadcast by Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, coming to live from State House in Nairobi. And this is President William Ruto, expected to host Malaysia Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim at State House Nairobi. He is expected to arrive, or rather the pictures you're seeing there is the motorcade carrying Malaysia Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, who has of course arrived here. Of course he'll be in Kenya for a couple of days for a state visit. And yesterday, President William Ruto, of course, hosted the Prime Minister for a dinner where they spoke a number of issues, including how Malaysia rose from a struggling nation to a fast, or rather a developed country. And of course, President William Ruto saying that Kenya is drawing the inspiration to roll out a 5 trillion plan to invest in Kenya's people, boost agriculture through large-scale irrigation, build better roads and energy systems, and open real opportunities across the country. President Ruto saying, of course, it's a clear and practical path to help Kenya become a first world economy that lifts people from poverty and creates wealth for shared prosperity. And there on the picture you've seen, he's arrived and he's being ushered. Of course, he's expected to inspect a parade. And of course, he'll receive a gun salute. In case you just switch on your television, in case you just joined us, this is a Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, has just arrived at State House in Nairobi, hosted by President William Ruto. Right now, he, of course, expected to inspect the guard of honor. And of course, yesterday, the Malaysian Prime Minister, during a dinner in Nairobi, he hailed or rather praised Kenya's affordable housing program, saying the country, or rather Kenya, is taking the lead in providing decent homes for low-income families. And he appeared quite impressed by that.
Guard of Honor, mounted by Kenya Army, present and ready. Yes. Permission to march up the Guard of Honor, sir.
course, President William Ruto hosting Malaysia Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. And now they head to a private meeting for bilateral talks, of course, between the two delegations, one from Kenya and, of course, the other from Malaysia. And the talks are expected to, of course, focus on expanding trade across, or rather between the two nations, of course, to talk about other issues to be education, science, technology, and, of course, investment. Affordable housing is also set to feature prominently in the two leaders' discussion. And, of course, the Malaysia Prime Minister is later expected to deliver the keynote address at the Malaysia Africa Higher Education Forum in Nairobi later before opening the program. He is also further expected to speak at the Malaysia-Kenya High Level Business Forum, which will bring together around 200 business representatives from both countries, Kenya and Malaysia. During his visit, the Malaysia Prime Minister will also hold a meeting with a Kenyan firm exploring agricultural investment collaboration with a Malaysian partner. He will later meet leaders of Kenya Islamic community and officials from Nairobi's Jamia Mosque, where he will represent or rather present copies of the Quran translated into Swahili. Before wrapping up his mission, the Malaysia Prime Minister will attend a luncheon with Malaysians living in Kenya, including alumni of the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, MTCP. And now we hand you over to the broadcasting house, Vivian Degwa.
There we have it. That is a State House, Nairobi. We have gotten to witness the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, get to inspect the Guard of Honor as well as receive gun salutes from the parade right there. And he's in the country for a state visit, and he will be around for several days. And their talks mainly will be centering on cooperation in trade, investment, and tourism as well. We will be putting you up to speed on that. Now let's get back to our conversation right here on Family Check. Good morning, Kenya. We were talking about mental health awareness, specifically among the younger generation. We had already started the convo, and yeah, where were we? If we can just get into, you were talking about just how easy has it been, you know, for you as young people to speak about mental wellness openly, you know, among yourselves. You had given us your pointers, and now I would love to hear from Josam, because this is what you are mainly about. You know, you even have a podcast whereby you talk matters mental wellness. So would you say it's easier now for younger people or for young people to openly speak about mental health, you know, from the people you've gotten to interact with in the same space, you know, matters that mental wellness? Is it easier now? Are younger people more open to speak about it now?
I would say mental health is better compared to the previous generation.
Okay.
But the pressure is high. Pressure from school, pressure from social media, and in a comparison, pressure from cultural beliefs. But we are talking, and we have to create that space for people to know more about mental health, to understand more about it. Yeah.
George, when you talk about stigma around mental health, mental wellness, I think this has been there for years on end. You know, every time we talk about mental wellness, kuna the stigma around it. You know, you don't want to say that you're struggling, you know, mentally, because utaambiwa wewe ni kama huyu ni kama ameanza kuchizi da. You know, no one looks at it like it's a disease like every other. You know, it's the same way I would say naumwa na kichwa. That's the very same way I'm allowed to say that I'm feeling like I'm battling depression, or I'm having anxiety. So maybe what do you feel should be done, or where are we in terms of getting to a point where we have accepted mental health conditions to a point where now there's no stigma around it, so that it's easier to even navigate it for the person who's going through it?
Thank you so much, Vivian. the issue of stigma is actually something we need to look at, especially I've had the privilege of being brought up in the village, and of course the other side of it, schooling and staying in Nairobi. And when this subject of mental health started being spoken clearly and across even the media, I started flashing back, and I realized some of the cases we used to witness were actually mental cases, but probably we gave them a different name. Somebody probably, we nicknamed somebody, that person is moody. It's not a people person, whereby maybe somebody was withdrawn, or there was a madman in our market. There was a certain man who was actually picking litter in the market, and of course he was not the employee of the county council, but we called them a mad person. And then we hear probably he was bewitched by a neighbor, probably something came up. So you realize that by calling it madness, or probably not wanting to be associated with that person, he got isolated, and that's the stigma around such. So we tend to avoid such people, especially those who have extreme cases. And what was even worse is where maybe somebody committed suicide. And then the culture around that, how that person is buried, like in my culture, they are to be buried very quickly, and mostly before the sun rises. And in some other extreme, because we have subcultures, especially in Western Kenya, others, when they will bury them behind the house. And also the society is told that person should not be named after. If it's called Fuller, therefore a child in that community should not. And therefore the conversation around mental health becomes key, so that first, sometimes people behave ignorantly. Not that maybe my people are hostile per se, but culture and stigma has come into that matter. So the conversation tends to highlight, clarify, so that when you see somebody withdrawing, stressed up or moody, when we don't look at the effects, we look at what could it be, have a conversation, and where possible, talk about it or approach a specialist, and that will help really clarify that. And therefore a conversation like this one on this platform, the national broadcaster, comes in very handy. Yes, so we need to address that.
To speak more about mental wellness, so that we're able to also just demystify the misconceptions and the myths around it.
Exactly, where possible, have town halls in communities, have young people now share up, like what we have had from panelists, have that conversation, have people maybe say what they think of it, the experience they have probably gone through, that like what she has said, and then now we get to see how do we handle each other, how do we go about it. Yes.
We're living in the internet era, the area of social media. You had touched a bit about social media. Would you say it is generally helping or causing more harm when it comes to matters mental well-being?
I'd say it's in between. It creates opportunities for people, but also it creates that environment where people want to be like someone. People are copying someone, but they don't know that those people, they are not showing the real of themselves. So we tend to copy them, and that brings that conversation of it is a problem. Yeah. Okay.
Joe, from your point of view, social media, because now we are all on social media. I mean, at most times, so is it causing more harm or good matters mental well-being? And the comparison bit is coming up when talking about social media. Is that something you also agree to?
Yeah, I think it's a bittersweet situation because when you talk about social media, there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. And, we young people, we tend to compare ourselves with our peers. And, our privileges are different. And particularly when you are young, you have these ambitions. And maybe you're just scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, and then you come across a post by a young person who has a luxurious car, an SUV. And you're there, maybe you're a career person, and the means that they are saying they have used to acquire these, material things are, for example, forex trading and other, tujanja to online. And you start to question the whole system. You start to ask yourself, like, did I make the right decision? Am I supposed to, continue pursuing my career? What is the need for me to wake up very early, be committed, be disciplined? Because, there are others who are making it easily. And you'll find that the lives that people are portraying on social media are not real. And that is becoming a big problem. Secondly, there are also depressed souls out there on social media that, are making posts that can demotivate you. For example, I saw a post by someone. Somebody posted a very good-looking bungalow, and he was saying that he huwezi nunua na career, he huwezi nunua, and he was actually addressing people who are doing teaching. Ebu angalia walimu wote ambao wako hapo, the principals, nobody can live in such a house. And we have these big dreams, and I'm just imagining you are that teaching student somewhere, and you are thinking that this is the way to go, and then someone demotivates you by telling you that, that lifestyle that you dream of cannot be achieved in the line of what you're doing. But on the other side, I think social media also provides us with an opportunity to express ourselves, and people share what they're going through, and you actually get to realize that whatever you're going through, you're not alone. Actually, not just locally, you'll find that there are international problems. Someone in England or in the US or wherever, they get to share some problems that you thought are unique to you. And actually, that helps because you now start viewing life in a different way, knowing that you're not alone, that these are things that happen. Yeah.
So there's the good and the bad side of it. I'm being told we need to be winding up, but before we do, maybe Agnes, for someone who's openly mentioned that they've battled depression before, there could be someone who's watching us right now, a young lady, a young gentleman, and they are in that situation right now. They are depressed and they don't know how to come out of it. Just how did you get out of it? How are you able to, emerge victorious from it and, be the lady that you are right now here with us, all joyous and all?
Okay. For me, I won't say that I worked so hard to get out of it, because in the long run, I ended up in the streets. I stayed for a while, and I faced all that somebody can face when they're in the streets. The stigma, the isolation and all that, rejection, that is. But the people that could see that this person is not really in a bad state, they are the ones who took me up. And after that, I was taken to the mental institution, stayed there for a while and got well, and then I got back home. So what I can tell anyone who is battling depression, or they feel that life is overwhelming, they need to speak up to somebody who is close to them. And if they don't have, they can still seek God. And if they feel like they don't feel really well, and they cannot organize their minds, because that is what happened to me, they just need to go to the hospital. That is maybe the first step, because not everyone is religious enough. They need to go to the hospital and then explain their situations. Because with the awareness that is being made in this present day, I believe anyone who will handle that person, he or she will be able to give a direction, so that that person doesn't end up in the way I ended up. All right, I need to get your final remarks. I don't know if you'll be able to get final remarks from every one of you, but if you strictly constrain your remarks to 15 seconds, we will get each one's remarks. So 15 seconds.
Quite constraining, but what I would say, this is a wider subject, but what I would say that everybody goes through mental health issues, but what to assure us, especially the young people, just know help is all around you.
Okay.
From our homes, in our churches, in our schools, our government, the counseling centers, and wherever. First, I agree with her, speak out, and help will be around. Begin with where you are. Maybe there's a teacher next to you, a Sunday school teacher, a teenager's teacher, for example, a mentor. Speak it out.
Okay.
Help is all around you, and I've been in the space of young people, mentoring them in church, in schools. We even have a foundation. We also mentor others, the young adults and the teenagers, and I've also written about them.
Okay.
Maybe next time, I don't know whether it is, but I've done something around the young people.
Yeah.
They have a book called The Leading Hand,
Okay.
which highlights the help that is there for young people, where they can reach out for help.
All right.
And therefore, don't despair. People around you, help is around you. You can get it done. You can come out of it. Not all is lost.
All right.
Yes.
We have to finish. So thank you so very much to each and every one of you for joining us for this conversation and for shedding light and for speaking about your actual experience in matters mental health and wellness. This is a conversation that cannot end here. It's a conversation that needs to go on. Maybe we'll get to find some more time so that we can be able to speak about it in depth. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has gotten to join us. My name is Vivian Degwa. This is Good Morning Kenya. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. See you tomorrow, God willing.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
There are names which instantly epitomise the true spirit of a sport in the WRC. That name is the Safari Rally. A return to Africa for the first time in almost 20 years. Presents this generation the opportunity to forever write their names into history